Uh, Hello, everyone. We're waiting for a member to join us, so we have a quorum. I'm going to start with the script and see how far we get. So, hello, everyone. This is Chuck Tirone, Conservation Administrator, consistent with the Governor's orders superseding certain provisions of the open meeting law and allowing us to adhere to social distancing requirements during this COVID-19 crisis. This Town of Reading Conservation Commission meeting is being held virtually via Zoom for audio and video participation of the Conservation Commissioners, applicants, and their representatives, and the public. During this meeting, myself or the chair will unmute commissioners, applicants, representatives, and members of the public individually as needed. During the meeting, the chair will be the only one to permit shared videos. These controls are in place to ensure that tonight's meeting is safe and effective. At this time, Chair Moore will do a roll call vote to make sure that all members are here and present. I think Carl is here now too.
Okay, when I call your name, please answer, and this will be the order we vote in. John.
John Sullivan, present.
Andrew.
Andrew Driven, present.
Carl.
Carl Ciccone, present.
And Martha Moore, chair, present. Back to you, Chuck.
Thank you. Please note that this meeting is being recorded. Also be aware that other folks may be able to see you. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. All of the material of tonight's meeting is available on the Conservation Division site, and I'm going to send out a link right now to the site. So if you want to check that out, please go ahead. It's in the chat. All the materials are for this meeting are available on the Conservation Division site, and I recommend that the commission members and the public follow the agenda as posted on the Town of Reading page unless otherwise noted. However, because tonight's meeting is being conducted remotely, I advise applicants in particular that the commissioners cannot discuss or consider documents which are not previously posted. Unfortunately, information may, however, be presented orally. Similarly, members of the public are encouraged to provide written public comment, but should understand that not all participants nor the commission members will be available to see the written comments during the course of this meeting. Before we get started on tonight's agenda, I'm going to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business to ensure that accurate minutes are taken. For any response, please wait for the chair to yield the floor to you and state your name before speaking. After the commissioners make their remarks and these remarks have been addressed by the applicant, the chair will afford the public comment as follows. The chair will first ask each member of the comment who wish to speak to identify themselves by name. Once the chair has a list of public commentators, the chair will call each one and afford them 4 minutes for any comment. The applicants may be requested to respond by the chair. After public comment, the chair will once again go down the line of commissioners individually, asking them to provide further comment, questions, or motions. Please hold off until your name is called. Finally, each vote during the course of tonight's meeting will be taken by roll call vote. That's what I have, Chair Moore.
Okay, and are you going to start the recording?
And I will start the recording. Thank you.
Okay.
Recording in progress.
Okay, this meeting is called to order at 7:15 p.m. on November 9th, 2022. My apology to all the applicants for the slight delay in getting started tonight. Okay, our first item on the agenda has already been continued until December 14th, and that is 0 Small Lane, so no vote is required. So we can go right on to our next item on the agenda, which is 550 West Street. And that is Assessor's Map 25, Lot 2, DEP file number 270-0759.
Hi, Maureen. Um,
I'm here.
yeah, you can turn, yep, Karen again. Anyone else besides Scott Harris with you tonight?
Yes, could you please let in attorney Para,
Para, okay.
Alex Para?
Okay,
Thank you. Okay, good evening, everyone. So we're back in front of the commission. I think we were in front of you folks maybe a month ago or 6 weeks ago now. And at the last conservation hearing, I think it was stressed by the commission that you wish to see more mitigation for the proposed work out on this site. So as a result of that, we submitted a revised plan, substantially increasing the amount of plantings out at the property. So the original proposal proposed planting 32 trees. The applicant has increased the plantings to 44 trees and 90 shrubs. And that is shown on the attached plan. We can certainly bring it in if the commission would like to see that.
do you want me to put the plan up, Maureen, or do you want to
If-
do it? I can do it real quick.
Sure. In addition to that, we had requested the commission to consider an additional 22 trees to be cut. And those trees are noted in my November 2nd memo that I submitted with the revised plan. To refresh the commission's memory, you have approved 20 trees to be removed up to this point. And I can open it up to the commission with any questions or concerns.
Does anybody on the commission have comments to start off with? Oh, we lost our plot plan.
Yeah, did you want that up? I was figuring we wanted to talk.
Okay, we can talk before we put it up. John,
Maureen, can you just give us the total numbers of proposed trees to be removed and the number of proposed trees to be planted altogether?
Okay, so the commission approved 20 trees to be removed at this point. We're requesting an additional 22 trees, so that's a total of 42 trees. And as mitigation, we're proposing to plant 44 trees and 90 shrubs.
Okay.
Andrew. You're muted.
Do you have any of the numbers related to the riverfront area? How much riverfront area is on the sites and how your numbers are being addressed through mitigation?
So the riverfront area, I believe, is on the bottom of the plan. So which numbers would you like to know?
How much riverfront area is there? How much riverfront area are you altering? And then, given that, how does your mitigation address the riverfront performance standards?
So this is in reference to the trees.
This is in reference to your proposed plan that we are discussing right now.
Right, so the project is kind of two phases, right? So we have the proposed tree removal, and then we have the proposed addition.
Are we doing them separate, or is this one notice of intent for both?
It's obviously one notice of intent for both, but we've had this conversation before about how do I quantify tree removal within the riverfront area?
That's,
And I don't know how to quantify that. I do know is that we're replacing more than 1-to-1 for the proposed trees to be cut. And in addition to that, we're providing 90 shrubs as plantings. So for every tree that's being cut, we're providing more than 1-to-1, and we're planting 90 shrubs.
No further questions.
I'm feeling like you, the applicants must be as frustrated with this process as I am as a commissioner. Andrew's concern a number of meetings ago had to do with the proposed impervious surface compared to existing impervious surface. So what aspect of your mitigation is directly addressing the impervious surface issue?
So on the bottom of the plan, Ms. Chairwoman, the
Mhm.
existing impervious area is 5,417 square feet. The proposed impervious area is 6,980 square feet. So that's 1,300 square feet, give or take, of
Mhm.
additional impervious area. For the addition, we are providing rooftop infiltration. That's shown on the plan that's been discussed at previous hearings.
Yeah. So is that the mitigation for the additional 1,300 square feet, or is it the blueberries?
It's essentially both. We're providing more than 1-to-1 replacement for the trees, for the trees proposed to be cut down, trees to be replaced, as well as the shrub plantings.
Mhm.
And we're providing rooftop infiltration for the addition.
Okay.
Madam Chair, may I be recognized?
I couldn't tell who's asking.
This is Alex Perry. I'm an attorney for the applicant.
Yes, you may
Excuse me.
speak.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Members of the commission, I just wanted to address Mr. Driven's comment. You know, clearly in the context of a redevelopment in a riverfront area, it's not required under the regulation that there be a mitigation that's in the same form as the negative impact, if you want to call it that. And in fact, the regulations talk about, it's 1058.5G, talk about mitigation in terms not only of square footage, but other kinds of mitigation where square footage is not, you know, the relevant, you know, calculation. You can't calculate, as Maureen has pointed out, you can't calculate, you know, each tree and come up with a number. So what we've tried to do is to provide you with a very robust planting plan that, in addition to capturing, you know, the runoff from the roof area, which is an improvement over existing conditions, but also to replace diseased and stressed trees on a more than 1-to-1 basis with new trees, and also to improve the habitat value of the riverfront by providing not just blueberry bushes, but a number of other species, alder, spice bush, you know, etc. So I think you can evaluate this project on a kind of shall we say, overall viewpoint. And when you look at this plan, what I look at, what I see is you have the inner riparian zone preserved in its entirety. The only work being done there is, as I said, the removal of some stressed, diseased, or dead trees and replacement in that area with new trees and shrubs. And the other work that's being performed in this project is pushed as far as can be to the outside boundary of the outer riparian zone. And just, calculating off the plan, we're basically, starting at about 170 feet out. So what we were hoping to do here is to provide you with the most robust, planting plan that we can provide as mitigation, in addition to capturing the roof runoff. Another thing I'd just like to point out is, although the total request for cutting of trees is 42 trees, the bulk of that occurs in the outer riparian zone, not the inner riparian zone. In the inner riparian zone, the total number of trees to be cut that we're asking for is 14. And as you can see on the plan, the plantings are roughly equivalent in terms of number of trees. Plus you have 9 of the various species of shrubs and approximately half of the proposed 68 blueberry bushes. One other thing I think, as you look at this, and my first reaction when looking at this plan with the blueberries was, that seems awfully regimented, maybe not the most natural. But on reflection, and I didn't draw the plan, I didn't have any part in creating it, but it does also provide a natural barrier against incursions into the inner riparian zone. So I think on an overall basis, and we hope the commission agrees, that for a redevelopment plan that involves riverfront, this is about as good as it gets of the mitigation that can be offered. Those are my comments.
Thank you. Anybody else on the commission have comments to make at this point? Chuck, I was going to go to you next.
Sure. Thanks. And I just had a couple of questions. So on the plan, and I'm going to put that up so people understand where we're at. There's still a note on it that says that all the trees in this area will be cut from 8 to 15 foot tall. And I'm wondering if that's still the case, that when you say you're leaving the trees, that sounded okay. Well, I see the trees that you're leaving, but this still notes an area that they'll be, every single one will be cut down, and pine trees will not be sprouting out with new, new limbs. So I'm wondering about that note. That's my first question.
I believe the intention is to leave 8 to 15 foot snags on the trees that are being cut down within the inner riparian zone.
Yeah, and that brings me to my second question. I was wondering if you could point out on the plan, I was just looking for that 100-foot riverfront line. And I see this 100-foot wetland buffer over here.
It's, if you look at the existing garage.
Yep.
Pull the plan down a little bit. So from the back right-hand corner, you can see a very faint line going straight up.
Yeah, okay.
That's the 100-foot. And if you pull it down from the garage, it gradually goes in, and you see it. You see the notation at the street that says pole. Just that, yeah, just above that. Do you see pole?
Right there.
Just
Yeah.
just to the right of the word pole, you see the 100-foot line coming out. across the
All right.
street.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So about half of the blueberries are inside the 100-foot riverfront, and about half the blueberries are outside the 100-foot riverfront, crossing over at about
Yeah.
the place where the riverfront line crosses the no structure zone line.
Yeah, that's about correctly.
Yeah,
And
kinda
when I
gets-
said about half of them, clearly, I'm estimating visually, and if you were to actually count those boxes, I don't think you could, the drafter could actually fit in 68 boxes of that size, but the intent is to plant 68 in that area.
John has his hand up.
Yeah, thanks, Martha. I guess I have more of a comment just on the planting plan, and I think my first impression is that this is I think a pretty good planting plan. I think that oftentimes we kind of get into this like how many trees for how many trees kind of discussions, and I think something we kind of lose in that is that newly planted trees are different ecologically than mature trees, and as those newly planted trees grow and get bigger and eventually become mature trees, there's a deficit of the ecosystem services that they're providing during that time. And so I think that a whole bunch of trees coming down and then a whole bunch of trees just being planted one-to-one to replace them isn't quite like a one-to-one mitigation, but I think that all the shrubs and stuff on this planting plan will do a lot to I guess mitigate that. So I think we should be conscious as a commission of one-to-one replacement of mature trees with newly planted trees, but I think the additional shrubs kind of push that into an acceptable, at least to me, replacement. I'm not sure. I think maybe this is a little out of my wheelhouse, but I'm not really sure if the infiltration from the proposed addition is fully mitigating for that. I guess maybe I would defer to the rest of the commission, and maybe if Chuck knows of any other plans where we had something like this, like within a riverfront area, like is that kind of what we look for mitigation, or is this outside of the normal?
So the stone dry wells are, we don't usually see that. We usually see something a little more commercial. So, race systems, something like that. But the thing about this project, it's a single family house that doesn't have to meet the stormwater standards. So by adding some infiltration, and it doesn't say, they're not ranking it in performance, that it does meet the standard. So that's considered an improvement. Will it work? It'll probably work. It has a lot to do with just the maintenance, operation and maintenance that's done on it. And we could put some conditions in the order of conditions for that. I think that where you're talking about the trees, I just did a quick count and I came up with maybe something like 23 trees that are going to be cut down to 8 to 15 feet in this area, in this, the first 100 foot of the riverfront area. And the regulations do ask you to not work in that area. And we have an opportunity not to work in that area because there's really nothing going on there except the fact that we have an application to cut down the trees and then replant smaller trees and some shrubs. So I think if we count the trees that are going to be cut down to 8 to 15, we're almost back to 1-to-1 replacement so it's 44, and then we're into the 90 shrubs to replace the trees that are cut. So we call those snags. So for all the snags in there. And that's going to happen in the closest part to the riverfront area. Did we get a size of any of these trees that you're planting, Caliper, Maureen, or Alex, or
Well,
Scott?
as I read the plan, and maybe I'm misreading the plan, but as I read the plan, each tree is annotated with a size and species. Am I wrong about that, Maureen?
That's the existing trees that are on the site.
Yeah. So, and Mr. Turan, just to be clear, in the inner riparian zone, we're talking about cutting just 14 trees to become, the snags 8 to 15 feet high.
So you have trees in this area that are X'd out, and then you have trees that are shown on the plan, trees to remain. But the note says all the trees in this area will be cut down to 8 feet to 15 feet.
Well, okay.
So it will no longer be a tree.
No, okay. The intent of that note was to say that as to the trees being cut,
Okay.
we cut to 8. We're not clear cutting the
So that note is only for the trees that are being cut.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
And the ones that are marked with X's are the ones we discussed at previous meetings. And the additional trees that you would like to cut that are in that area are marked in as yellow boxes. Is that correct?
No, I think they just, I'm sorry, they're just shown right here, proposed trees to be removed with that
okay.
symbol.
Yeah, okay. So they're tree symbols that are colored red. So the tree symbols that are colored green are not going to be removed.
Correct.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And I can give you the numbers on the, according to the arborist report on the plan.
Yeah. We
numbers of-
have those.
Okay. All right.
They're in the letter that you sent. So,
Good.
yeah, because, my concern about this area is 1, habitat value, and 2, flood protection. And I'm still concerned that cutting down or cutting to snags that many trees will greatly decrease the amount of transpiration that is happening in that area and might cause increased flood risk. And those big root systems of those pines will no longer be stabilizing the soil once they're dead. And you are proposing putting a number of plantings in that area that will help with that. But I also am concerned about the habitat value, because if I'm a red squirrel that likes to eat pine cones of white pines, suddenly my buffet lunch has been reduced significantly because of all those large trees that are being cut down and no more pine cones being produced. And the young, small caliper trees that are being planted are not going to be producing any fruit for a while, and none of them are pines that are being replanted, so those will not be producing cones. But there are some pines remaining, so there will be some cones. And so I guess a key question I have is, when they are cutting the trees that we agree to cut down to snags, what measures will be taken care of to preserve the understory and the less than 6-inch caliper pines that are already growing there? So I'm looking for, you know, a forest cutting plan that would preserve the understory. Do you have any thoughts on that, Maureen?
Well, essentially if the commission allows the project, you know, it's more of a selective type cutting that they're gonna have to do. So they're not gonna come in and clear cut and fell the trees onto the land. They're gonna be selectively cutting. You know, the small pines in that area, even if you had a machine go over it, it would bounce right back. It's not going to destroy a small pine or anything of that nature. The intent is to selectively cut and to prevent hitting the other trees and damaging the other trees, whether it be the tree trunk or the tree root system. So it's going to have to be a delicate measure in terms of doing the tree cutting.
Okay, good.
Chairwoman, if I could just chime in on that as well. Thanks for having me again tonight, guys. Yeah, to Maureen's point, all these trees will be taken down with a crane, so we're not coming in here clear cutting everything, so it'll be a delicate operation. So
Okay,
to add to the point.
good. Thank you. Carl, you've had your hand up.
Yes, if I just chime in on the planting, I guess I'm not sure if I've seen as big of a residential mediation here, you know, whatever it is, 100 plants or more. I guess my first comment is, given the weather changing, is there any irrigation to be considered? You know, this is a big investment on the client's behalf of all these trees and shrubs. I would think if they're planted in a timely fashion in the spring, they'd have a chance, but this last summer we've had, I mean, non-irrigated new plants will most likely die, I would think, which doesn't benefit us or the client, I would think. So I just don't know if there's some kind of, you know, thought on that. I was going to comment on the evergreen. It's a nice selection of plants, but I just didn't see any evergreen. Well, the two rhododendron or the few rhododendron, but just a more of a tree form. I know we've got a lot of pines left on the property, so that's, you know, one thing. And then just to Chuck's point, I did notice too, there's no size caliper on the trees. The shrubs, I guess, I'm not as worried about. But I would also just suggest to Maureen or the client, you know, is someone in the kind of field with plantings and new landscapes, planting into a heavily rooted existing forest like this is really a forest line here. The smaller the root, although I'd rather have a larger tree, the smaller the root ball might fare better in this environment. You know, I also wonder, this might add something to this whole thing, Chuck, but even just from a composty loam standpoint, there's not going to be much loose soil in these areas for these acers and oak trees and things like that. So I guess I'm just trying to think of the best way for all of this to succeed, and how do you plant these things? I feel like we don't always know, or touch base on that, but it is difficult, I think. So I don't know. I guess I'm just throwing that out there.
May I address that, Madam Chair?
Yes, please.
So in regards to the shrubs, I 100% agree with you. If the commission does approve this project, it would be, the plantings would occur in the springtime. Just because we're getting so close to the end of the growing season. So there's my client has every effort to ensure that these shrubs survive, because there are a lot of them. So whether he's out there with a hose watering the shrubs, or with a bucket or what have you, but he could even use the for the trees, do the bag around the trees and have them water it if there's some sort of drought conditions next year, hypothetically. But there's every interest for my client to ensure that these trees survive, and shrubs. So he's going to make that effort, because obviously we want to come back to the commission and show the final product, and the plantings survive, and get a certificate of compliance. And I agree with you in terms of the sizing. Once you get into a 6-foot tall tree, you need a crane to plant the tree. And it's hundreds of pounds, so it's not something that 2 men could pick up. So
Sorry, go ahead, Maureen. Sorry.
No. So I just agree with maybe going with a smaller size type tree than a larger tree. I don't know how the rest of the commission feels about that, but I'm on board with that.
Yeah, and I understand the value of the habitat. So for the commission's sake, I'm not proposing this to, sort of, I mean, we want that habitat value. I'm just trying to think, in my professional experience, this is a difficult planting. It's easy to look at on paper, but I think there's going to be a tough success rate. And I think the smaller the root ball, it might have a better chance of taking and working its way into this soil versus this big old tree. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend this in other projects, but in a finished landscape is much different than this existing woodland. So that's my only thought. But
Can I suggest that if we were to approve this project, perhaps the area just below the part of the screen that we can see now. So Chuck, if you could scroll up a little bit. Where there we go. Where the Norway spruces are proposed to be removed will then be a pretty wide open space, and perhaps the trees planted in that semicircle in the middle of the driveway could be a larger caliper tree.
yeah, exactly.
And the trees planted inside the woods, inside the 35-foot zone, could be a smaller caliper tree.
Yeah.
Andrew, you have a question or a comment?
Yeah, it's more of a comment. So we're having a good discussion about the planting plan. Carl's raising some great points, and I appreciate that we have this plan to talk to. So that's a step forward. We have a lean commission, and from my point of view, what's being proposed does not address the 1,500 square foot addition in terms of what's being mitigated. I think what we're discussing begins to address the aggressive tree removal. So just putting it on the table, what I see as being proposed, taking it as a whole, it's still not there, but we're definitely taking some strong steps forward.
So, Madam Chair, may I address that comment?
Sure.
Thank you. So Um, the the main impact of the addition is the creation of additional impervious area. And the concern with additional impervious area that's expressed in the regulations and in the preamble to the regulations is the effect on runoff. So the mitigation to be provided for the impervious area is the infiltration of the water, in this case, from the roof into the ground, so that you don't create a bunch of runoff. And I don't know of any other mitigation that addresses impervious area other than stormwater management and infiltration to the ground. I think that's a very standard mitigation technique for impervious area. A lot of commissions would accept just a perimeter drainage strip, just effectively a gravel strip around the foundation. We tried to take it one step further, but just because it's an addition doesn't per se make it bad. The issue is the impervious surface that it creates from a wetlands perspective. So I think that, we're obviously open to hearing, any suggestions that the commission may have in regard to mitigation, but with respect to that aspect, I don't know what else it could be.
Well, I could comment on that if you like.
Sure.
This is a redevelopment plan, right? You're being proposed under the redevelopment regulations. In a typical redevelopment, you are redeveloping something. So you would be taking down an existing structure, or removing some existing impervious, and then redeveloping it. That's not happening here. You're just adding on to an existing house, and it's a very substantial addition of 1,500 square foot foundation. And yes, you have a dry well that's being proposed, but to me that doesn't address the sizable addition. And we have a lot going on here, and you don't even have the simple numbers of 10% of the riverfront area and how you're going over it. I know it's a quantitative issue, and you like to talk about this qualitatively because it's complicated, but it doesn't meet my expectations.
Well, we would like to meet your expectations, but I don't know what you're asking us to do.
Some simple numbers to start with. How much riverfront area is on the site? And then we could say, okay, there's this much impervious being proposed, which is roughly
1,300.
7,000. And I think the existing impervious of the 10% of the whole site is about 4,000. So you're over, just per the regulations, by 3,000 square feet. I know you don't want to talk numbers and square that thing, but that's the fact. I mean, that's how the regulations work.
Madam Chair, may I address one of the number concerns?
Yes.
In the notice of intent filing that I submitted to the commission on April 27, 2022, riverfront area on the site is 33,907 square feet.
33,000?
33,907 square feet, page 3 of 9.
Great. What's 10% of that, Maureen?
It's 10% is 3,000 square feet, but this is a redevelopment. I submitted a letter from July 6th addressing the redevelopment standards. We went through the redevelopment standards. for the addition. I addressed it I went through all of the standards of that.
That's fine. I have no further comments. I'm ready to move on.
I have one other question.
Yeah, I
Um,
did.
The double row of blueberry bushes on the plot plan. I haven't been out to the site since I received this plan. Can you tell me what currently exists in that area represented by all those blue squares?
Yes, Madam Chair, the bulk of that is just lawn. Kind of like the strip in between the driveway and where you start getting into some of the, I believe most of it is invasive buckthorn. But as you pointed out in one of our previous meetings, I may not have the same eye as a arborist. So I don't want to say they're all buckthorn.
Okay. So it's an area that you mow, or it's an area that is small understory shrubs?
No, it's grass today.
I'm having trouble hearing you, Scott. Can you try being closer to your microphone?
Sorry, it's an area of grass.
Area of grass. So you're going to turn the grass into blueberry.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Chuck, you have your hand up.
I do. Get some housekeeping as part of this. I sent Scott an email explaining that we had misplaced a check, and the checks were brought to me for the application fees. I didn't receive any word back from that, but I wanted to have an understanding of, did Scott receive my email? Are you planning on replacing these two checks? One's for 250 and the other one's for 95.
Yes, my apologies, Chuck. It's your email. I was gonna do my due diligence and just double check. Not that I don't trust you, I just wanted to double check my accounting, but yes, I'm placing them if they were in fact not deposited.
So we have the checks.
Okay.
So maybe that's proof enough for you, but
Fair.
feel free. But yeah, we'd like to, obviously I'm glad we had this conversation. Great. I'm glad that that's going to happen. Thank you.
And the problem is these checks are old because they were submitted a number of months ago.
Yes.
April.
We don't want to take the chance of trying to deposit them and Scott would have to pay some fees or something like that. So that's why we reached out to him.
Yeah. Okay.
Chuck, can I just drop those off in your office?
You sure can.
So, Madam Chair, may I make a comment?
Sure.
Thank you. So this is just to address the concern regarding the redevelopment standards, and specifically the concern about 10% of the riverfront area. And so that 10% of the riverfront area number is found in 10.58 paren 5 paren E. But then G goes on to say, when an applicant proposes mitigation on site, alteration may be allowed notwithstanding the criteria of, among other things, 10.585E. So we've done that. And I just also would like to point out that the area of the proposed addition is not exactly pristine riverfront. It's previously disturbed area. So I don't know whether you get into the 10% or not, but even if you do, with on-site mitigation proposed, you can override the 10% under the regulations.
So I see that as there's only two options. Either you have to override it by providing mitigation at 2-to-1 or an equivalent level of environmental protection where square footage is not relevant measure.
Yes, and that's what we discussed earlier.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay, so those are the, just wanted to make sure it was clear.
Thank you.
If I can just offer up one more comment to the commission.
Yes, you may.
So again, appreciate your time tonight. Seems like a positive discussion. In regards to the mitigation as a sign of faith, that in addition to the planting plan here, I'd be willing to make a donation of $1,000 to the tree fund if we wanted to add that to an order of conditions on the project.
That's very generous. Thank you. We'll let the commission think about that. Do we need to see the plan again, or is everyone okay with that? I mean, I think there's a lot to think about here. Myself, I have to tell you that I had read that comment about the trees being cut 8 to 15 foot ever since this plan came in, because it's been a note on the plan, and I thought it meant every plant, every tree in that area. So quite different from what I was thinking was going to happen. So it only pertains to the trees that are being cut. So Martha, I don't know how you want to proceed from here. If there are any thoughts, I'm not sure I see any more hands being raised.
We
But I would
haven't
suggest-
opened it up to the public at all yet.
Sure.
So are there any members of the public? Please use your reaction button and the raise hand function in the reaction button if you have comments on this project. Okay, seeing none. Chuck, what were you about to suggest?
So I'm just going to throw it out there that this is a significant amount of planting. I think Carl said that. It's mitigation. It would be the reason why we approved the project. I would like to see some sort of a surety bond to make sure that we can support the planting after the trees come down if needed. And as we did at 295 Main Street, I would like to see a review for at least 5 years. With annual reports.
Maureen, would that work for the proposal that you're planning?
I'd have to refer to my client. I feel like 2 years may be sufficient. Normally, wetland replication, they require you to monitor it for 2 years. Would the commission consider 2 years?
I've certainly mostly seen 3 years on any of the projects that we've been reviewing. So I think 2 is risky, things that might not survive the 3rd year, even if they survive the first 2.
Right.
Yeah, Chairwoman, I would agree to 3.
Yeah, Scott, you're breaking up again.
Sorry,
Yes.
I was just saying I would agree to meet in the middle and go with the 3 years that you were proposing, Chairwoman Moore.
Well, I wasn't proposing that. I was just pointing out that I have not heard of doing 2 years on any of the projects I've seen.
I mean, I think the only thing that would, just so you guys understand, the review would be needed. I mean, we could spread out the review it for the first 2. And then of course, we'd need one at the end. But in between that, it just allows us to make sure that the trees and shrubs are going to grow. So there's no money involved. It's just time. That being said, there's a lot here on the table. I don't know where the commission's going, but if they felt like that they were going to close, I would suggest that you may not issue tonight and you just close, and then you're able to digest what we've talked about. And closing cuts off all discussion with the applicant and any other information that can come in per applicant, consultant, attorney. And it's just a discussion amongst the commission. And then you could issue at the next meeting, or you could make your conditions or deny at the next meeting, whatever. I had to say all of them, but that's where you're at.
I am still debating how I feel about this, so I kind of like the idea of closing tonight and having a chance to think it over and vote on December 14th. Andrew.
We could close tonight. Unfortunately, we have a very small commission. But that means that we're dealing with what we have proposed. And I've made it clear, I do not think this plan and the mitigation addresses both the tree removal and the addition. I think there's a lot going on. I think I could wrap my head around it if we remove the addition, and then we're looking at just the trees, an aggressive tree cutting plan and an aggressive tree planting plan, and I could wrap my head around that and start seeing it. But as proposed, as what I'm looking at right now, that's a very large addition. We've got 3,000 square feet of riverfront area to work within. We've got 7,000 square feet of proposed impervious. That's a substantial number. And that's just for the addition and the driveway. That doesn't even talk about the trees. So I'll just leave it at that. I mean, we could close, but I'm leaning towards no with what I'm looking at, just to put my cards on the table.
All right.
So yeah, just if you're stuck, we're at a point where you might ask the commission if they want to have any more comments, questions, or make a motion.
Any other comments from the commission?
No.
All right. So we either need to move to continue in the hopes that we get a plan that Andrew will be happier with, or move to close and give everybody a chance to think about whether to accept this plan as written.
Yeah, I think the only reason why I mentioned closing, and Maureen, this is going to be something you may want to answer or respond to. I think that Andrew's asked that same question for a couple of meetings now. So it didn't seem to be too much of a bearing on what we're doing. We also need the applicant's permission to extend the meeting to the December 14th. So there's a couple of things that have to happen.
Scott, do you have a preference on how you want to proceed? If the commission votes to close, they can't accept any new information. They vote essentially on what's been submitted.
May I ask a question, Madam Chair?
Sure.
If the matter is continued to the next hearing, would you anticipate having more members eligible to vote if they read the minutes of tonight's meeting?
There's only one more member of our commission. We are short 2 members that, so we only have 5. We're supposed to have 7. So a quorum is 4. And I would hope that by December 14th, our 5th member would be here. And he has been here for all the previous meetings. So I think he would be knowledgeable enough if he watches the RCTV of tonight's hearing to be able to be part of the vote next time. And Chuck, what do you want to say?
I think the Mullen rule only allows 2 meetings being missed. We could check on that. But Brian Bowe may be back for the December 14th, but I wanted to bring that up. You could review the minutes for 1 and 2, but after that, and we've gone 2 meetings at this point. So I'd have to check with some town council or my supervisors here in town. But if it's allowed, great. If not, I just want to bring that up.
Did we discuss this at the October 26th meeting, or had it been continued from a previous meeting? Because he was only absent today and the 26th of October.
Yeah, was this on the 26th? I can't remember. I thought it was.
No,
No. Okay. Well, we're saved by the bell. Okay, so that could happen.
Okay.
So Scott, the reason I asked the question is if you close now, you're gonna have a 4-member commission voting on this at the next meeting, one of whom has indicated his intention at this point to vote against it. So if you continue the next meeting, there's a chance that there would be a 5-member commission. And I don't have any clue as to how 4 members would vote.
Can I ask a question too? So if we close tonight, does that mean that Commissioner Bowe, if he were to read the minutes and watch the recording, he would not be eligible to vote at the next meeting? We would need to continue to the next meeting in order for him to vote?
No, if he could review tonight's minutes, he definitely can review 1 meeting and attend the next meeting and be a full member to vote.
Okay.
So even
it
if you
would still be a vote
closed,
of 5 people.
so you could close tonight and he could participate in that meeting as long as he reviews the, we're fortunate here. We have YouTube and we have read the minutes. So.
And I know he already watched the YouTube of the October 26th meeting. So I'm sure he'd be able to watch this one as well. So I guess it's up to the applicant whether he would prefer we move to close or move to continue.
Right. In either way, we need that permission to continue to the December 14th meeting.
There was some discussion this evening about, adding tree calipers and other planting techniques, I guess you would call it, in regard to the planting plan. Is that something that the commission feels, if it were to approve the project, that it could add as conditions?
Chuck, do you have a thought on that?
Yeah, I don't think you have to add it to the plan to just let us know. It seems to me there might be 3 areas: what's wooded now, what's fringe, and then that area in the front. But we didn't talk about caliper at all. I know Kyle didn't bring it up in his conversation, what he thought was appropriate for the what was once wooded area, what would be appropriate on the fringe. So we would really have to hear that from you. But I think that if you just brought it to the next meeting or submitted something, we could distribute it to the commission, but not if we closed.
Yeah, I think, Scott, if the vote's not going to occur until the next meeting anyway, it would seem to me there's no advantage to you to close tonight. Might as well provide that information. I don't think there's anything else that we can submit. Provide that information and close on the 14th, is it?
Okay,
Scott, is that all right?
Yeah, I agree with that. So just to confirm, so planting measures, which was the irrigation, maintenance, that discussion, caliper size trees for the front section of the house, and then also the wooded area of the house, and then shrub sizes. Is that what I heard correctly?
Sounds
Uh,
right to me.
yeah, let me just, so I have 4 things that we were gonna ask for. Sizes of the trees in the 3 areas. Once you come up with, we're gonna ask for a bond on the project. We want to hear about how you're gonna water the shrubs. And then probably the simple thing was just the operation and maintenance plan for the infiltration that you've proposed. Was there anything else that we're looking for? And Andy wants, Andy, please chime in and tell the applicant what you wanted. The calculations for the impervious.
You're
Yep.
muted.
I mean, so Maureen said we have the riverfront area, it's 33,000 square feet. I could do the 10% in my head, and we have the impervious that's being proposed. So, I mean, looking at the 2-to-1 is what I'm looking for quantitatively, and it's a big number. And I know you're proposing a lot, but you're also taking down a lot of trees. So if there's some way of trying to rationalize that you think might convince me of the addition, that's what I'm looking for. But just keep in mind, I'm a quantitative person. I think through numbers.
Okay. Any other conditions or any other asks? Not conditions.
Chuck, I did just have one last question for you. So you mentioned looking for the bond. Is that just something that'll be included in the order of conditions, or do
Yes.
we make a note on the plan? Okay, so I don't need to, other than acknowledging that
I just wanted you to know that we're most likely going to ask for a bond and need to get it into the hearing. So you're not surprised when you read the order of conditions.
Yeah, no, that's pretty standard order of conditions that I've read for years.
Okay, let's, and Scott, you agree, I'm hearing that you agree. I'm not sure that it was, you actually said it to the December 15th meeting. It's okay to continue. December 14th.
Agreed.
Okay, I heard that. Okay, so let's get a vote to continue and go along this meeting.
Okay, so can somebody make a motion? To continue this meeting to December 14th?
I move to continue 550 West Street to December 14th.
Carl Saccone, second.
John Sullivan in favor.
Andrew Gibbon in favor.
Carl Saccone in favor.
Martha Moore in favor.
Thank you
Okay.
very much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.
Okay. So moving right along, we'll be talking about 77 Markersburg Drive. Samantha Walker, I'm bringing Samantha up in the meeting. And I don't think there's anyone else here for 77 Markersburg Drive. So Samantha, hey. Okay.
Thank you for your patience, Sammy.
Of course.
Okay, Andrew, Chuck and I met with Samantha Walker and another person from National Grid out at 77 Walkersbrook Drive and had a chance to see the property. And is there I've lost my agenda. here we go. Assessors map 12, lot 130, DEP file number 270-07562. That's an odd number. Okay. All right. Do you want to give a brief introduction to what we're talking about here?
Sure. So my name is Samantha Walker. I am with BSC Group. I'm presenting this NOI on behalf of the Boston Gas Company. BGC is proposing facility maintenance and site security improvement activities, including vegetation removal within the facility, as well as the boundary fence replacement, in addition to upgrade activities, including the installation of a new 1,000-gallon liquid storage tank with containment and an associated internal security fence. Work is proposed within the bordering land subject to flooding, riverfront area, and 100-foot buffer zone. Specifically for the facility maintenance and site security improvement work, they're proposing this as there's been a history of public cutting of the fence, as well as making camps in the site and damaging on-site equipment. The outer fence is going to be upgraded and the vegetation to be cleared for sight lines and security reasons. In addition, this is overdue maintenance work on site as mature trees pose a risk to the underground gas lines. In addition, the installation work, including installing the storage tank with containment, is in order for the facility to store more mercaptan on site, as well as adding the, there's an existing internal security fence, but we're going to add more fencing in order to surround the new tank. And finally, all the project activities are proposed within the existing disturbed fenced-in gas facility, which is partially paved and was historically completely cleared of vegetation and covered with gravel. We are proposing to complete mitigation plantings of 6 small trees/shrubs along the access road to the facility. And overall, we are seeking an order of conditions from the Reading Conservation Commission to allow the work to proceed. Thank you.
All right. Any comments from the commission about this site? Andrew.
Yeah, so I mean, I'll just review. Visiting the site was at Monday, Monday morning. We got a chance to walk around and see some of the clearing that already happened, just kind of walk around the fence line. It's a large site. You're bordered with the stream, the Walker's Brook, on, I guess that's kind of the north side, or entering the site. It's on the right side, following the entire site. And it goes up to the train tracks. And from my understanding, it was historically, it's been in use by National Grid for decades. And it was previously used for large propane tanks. That was decommissioned. When we were at the site, they said in 2010. But so it's decommissioned and then I guess kind of left alone, and seen some trees that have grown, largely birch and alder, I think. And now they've cleared most of it. They want to finish clearing it, and that's where we are. And from my point of view, the fence seems like fine. You need to go to 8 feet, which becomes a building issue, but it's not conservation. I do have some questions about, since we are in the riverfront area, is there enough mitigation being provided? And I know, Sammy, you're a wetlands scientist, but looking at the aerial history of this site, it looked like it was decommissioned well before 2010. And then trying to follow it, it looks like the trees were largely cleared until 5-10 years ago. And then it looks like I start seeing some vegetation starting to grow. But that word decommissioned, does that have, like, do you know what that means when National Grid said this site was decommissioned and they can say a certain date? And when I hear that for a military site, that has a very specific meaning. So that's where I'm thinking, but what does that mean in this context?
Yeah, so the site was not decommissioned, but the use of the site changed. So it was that propane kind of exchange facility where it would take propane off the trains and export out into the system. It's always been a storage facility for the maintenance and operations of the gas facilities in the area, and it's kind of so it's always been active, but that it's transitioning more into a storage facility. So they're using it more for storage now than they were. And so the uses have kind of changed, if that makes sense.
No, that I understand, but when I hear decommission, I have different thoughts of what should be happening on this site and what could be happening, but that makes sense.
Just to clarify, the area that's currently gravel will stay gravel. You're not planning to put impervious surface inside this whole fenced area, correct?
That is not currently being proposed.
Okay.
Under this permit application.
So even though we're planning to clear the trees, we're not planning to increase the impervious surface, except for possibly where the tank is going to be.
Correct. The tank aspect does slightly increase the impervious surface on the site.
Yeah. But not the whole rest of the area. Okay.
Correct.
Yeah. All right. And Chuck, can you review for us what exactly we have jurisdiction over as a commission? Because I believe you have said there are things that are exempt about a utility.
So we have a utility exemption here, and the commission has the ability to agree that Boston Gas is qualified to, use the exemption, and this is a place where that will work. So, how we usually do this is we bring them in and then decide, if we're going to allow the exemption or not. And so it is up to the Conservation Commission. But I would say that this is a fenced-in area. It's historically been used as a depot for various things. The entire lot is gravel and a mixture of some sort of aggregate, and then maybe at some point it gets down into a different, subsurface layer of some other, material. But for the most part, I think that this site has been used as a storage facility for Boston Gas. I think since I've been here, there's been several projects, and it's not left alone too often. There's people usually there, you can find them once a month, let's say. And I know that the DPW department also is aware of this site, and they're in contact with Boston Gas. So much so that they've exchanged keys to get into the facility along with RMLD to do their maintenance. I was sent a photo. Don't know the year of this photo, but it shows what this facility looked like back in the day with the tanks just beyond what actually looks like a second structure, and the one closer to, I guess, the road is still in existence, but this other one doesn't seem to be there anymore. But you can see right back to the power lines.
I think we saw the foundation of that second structure where we were
you're right.
on the site. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can see what I'm assuming is the tracks way back in this area here. Yeah, I can't So I don't think I've ever been here when it wasn't covered in shrubs in some manner. But it does look like during this picture, when it was cleared, that they were basically working on the underground line, which they actually did that and changed some valves one time when I was here a couple years back. So there's a little bit of that. I mean, that's all I have on the utility exemption. I think that the commission has, every right to question it, but I think the evidence is clear that, this is probably a good use for that. Along with the work here, and I think that we talk. I can't think of that other person's name if that was there from Boston Gas. Sammy, do you know who that was we were also meeting with?
Oh, yes, Atan.
Atan. Yeah, so, Atan had told me that the facility is used quite often, and that about the storage, and that how, they intend to keep the site clear moving forward. So I think once it's cleared this time. Now, most of the trees are less than 8-inch DBH, and there's probably only what's left. There was probably only 5 trees that were even that at that caliber. So the rest were more saplings and, kind of volunteer growth that came up through the rubble. That's what I have. Oh, but I didn't, the other thing is we're going to get some planting too along the access path, the access roadway in. There's an area on the right-hand side, and that BSC and that Boston Gas has proposed some planting in that area. It was going to be shrubs, but Samantha said that we can ask for other things. So I thought maybe one tree would be better than all shrubs. But now we have Carl here. Carl, have you ever been to this site?
I don't think so. No. No, I don't think I have. No.
Yeah, sure. So it's right next to, well, it's basically across the street from Home Depot, and it's next to 55 Walkersburg Drive and the entrance to General Way. And
Right. Is that if you go past like Longhorn and stuff, right?
yeah.
Okay, so I think I've picked up something there. So okay, yeah.
And I've pulled up the map geo aerial photos of 1998, and it shows 6 big white tanks in the back, and the only vegetation beyond that entrance driveway is along the fence on the right-hand side, not at the property boundary, but pretty close to the property boundary. So it was all cleared at that time. Yeah, so, the kind of questions we're looking at in the, wetland value is flood control, pollution, habitat, escape cover for small animals. But it does seem like, yep, there you go. It does seem like this area has historically been open, and there is a lot of wetland around it that can still provide flood control and escape cover and things like that. And Chuck, can you show where they're proposing planting the mitigation tree plantings?
Sure.
Along that entry road there.
Right in that area there. Samantha, what was proposed?
In terms of the mitigation plantings?
Yes.
So we are proposing 6 small trees / shrubs, and that the species we were thinking that would be compatible with this area in terms of, you know, the overhead lines that are close to it and maintaining access, and species that would survive in that spot. We were thinking 4 options, which would be speckled alder, silky dogwood, sweet pepper bush, and or arrowwood were the 4 that we had come up with for a shady or kind of wet environment.
Yeah. So Carl, that area is about a foot above, you know, like the wetland,
Yeah.
and it's on the side of a road, and it probably is going to be buried in snow. I'm sure they're, you know.
Well, the
not- I mean,
deciduous options are good for that because it'll just rebound and be a little less woody than anything evergreen or something. So that's probably a good idea. I'm trying to think of like isn't sumac low grow sumac? You could, you know, because it's a large area, right?
It's
Yeah.
actually a fairly narrow strip along the entry road because very quickly you get into the open water wetland part that shows up a little bit more green in this map.
Okay.
So they have, you know, basically a couple of feet on the side of the road of grass that they can put their plantings into.
Okay.
Yeah, so Carl, for just so you understand what they've done is it's all cut down except for a little bit here in the center,
Yeah.
and then a little bit over here, and then just this spot in the back. The rest is gone. And this area that they use as a depot has an elevation that's just slightly above the wetland area, but so it is all buffer zone.
Okay.
What I showed is the back fence here. So no cutting is happening in this area here.
Okay.
And I think the wooded area near the property boundary, yeah, that area and heading towards the railroad tracks, I think the fence doesn't go all the way to the property boundary there. I think there's a little bit of wooded area outside the fence that shows on the 1998 aerial photograph. So I'm picturing that they would be cutting inside the fence, but not outside the fence, even though that's part of the property. Yeah, so you can see there's a few feet of trees, maybe 10 feet of trees along the edge there.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not cutting beyond the fence. That's right. Yeah, I didn't realize there was a fence somewhere there.
Yeah. And you can see the railroad spur at the bottom left of the picture where they used to bring the propane tanks in, and that railroad spur is still there. Though maybe not connected to the tracks anymore.
Yeah, it's pretty degraded.
Yeah.
Okay.
Andrew.
I'm just trying to understand the regulations. So I'm looking at 1002.2. That is about the exemption, and as long as it's being used lawfully and it's not substantially changing or enlarging an existing structure or facility that's for public infrastructure, you don't even need a notice of intent, it looks like. I mean, because I would love to see, I mean, there's already some planting. I would love to see some plantings along the stream, the brook on the outside, on the fence line, but I'm not even sure, it's not in our jurisdiction. So
No.
I agree that from what I see, this is a site that has historically been used as a gas infrastructure. So I think that's the discussion.
Yeah, I agree. I think that you summarized the utility exemption pretty well. I mean, it is used and it is lawful. We're getting a little bit of mitigation out of it, which was better than I thought. And, happy to take it. The only thing where this kind of went in a different way is we received a notice of intent to, kind of make our decision. So like I said, the commission has the right, so Boston Gas can't just come into town and declare a utility exemption and say, we're just doing the work. Has to be reviewed. And that's the prerogative of the Conservation Commission. So typically an RDA, in my opinion, would have brought us to the same spot with a lot less work. But this allows us to have this recorded and have some control over what's happening and to ask some questions. So I think it's good. I'm glad it came up. And then we got the mitigation for the work. So.
Yeah. I agree. Yes, thanks for putting this notice of intent together. It is good to see. And think about something other than a residential project.
Right.
I don't see us having much jurisdiction to ask for too much. So I appreciate the trees that are being offered though. And if you want to offer more, I'll take them.
Yeah, I know.
And they already have installed erosion control along the stream bank, so we don't need to ask for that. I apologize, I don't know what your plans are for the caliper of the trees / shrubs you're planning to plant.
Yeah, so I was talking to the landscape architect today. I think he said 1-inch caliper. I think that's what he said. We would do dormant plantings.
So this is happening this fall, then, in other words, right?
Correct.
Right. Does 1 inch seem big enough to you, Chuck, and you, Carl?
I'll let Carl answer first, but I already know what I'm going to say.
I mean, no, it's probably some sort of containerized plant, I would think. I'm not sure, just given that this is disturbed, previously, like unlike the last applicant where we're like in a far, I don't know. Seems small to me. What do you think, Chuck?
I think if they moved it to, can you go up a half size? I've seen 1.5 and I have an understanding of what they look like. Does that make any sense? So is it like a 1 gallon? Like a
I've
1
seen-
gallon container?
I'm sorry.
No, I think a 1-inch caliper would be like a 10-gallon container.
Okay.
It's definitely containerized. 2 inches typical for like a burlap, 2 to 2.5. I would think that would just have been typical, to be honest with you. But
where they're putting it is certainly disturbed, but it hasn't been disturbed, once the road went in. So it's kind of, there's other plants in there. It's an open area. There wasn't any trees. It had some volunteer vegetation growing in. of course, we didn't check the soils, so I don't know what's there. And I was going to ask if you're going to amend the soils or if needed, if you find out that they're not really conducive for any kind of planting, would you bring in some planting soil? I'm seeing yes. I don't know, Carl, what do you think? 2-inch caliper?
Yeah. I think that's
Okay.
honestly, it might even be easier to find. I mean,
You good with that? Okay, 2-inch caliper. Okay,
All right, so do we close and then move to approve a notice of intent? Is that the 2 steps here? Or is it exempt so we don't have to approve it?
no, let's close it. Go through that. And then before we issue, talk about any conditions you want. And then whoever makes the motion to issue, add those conditions into that motion. And then get it seconded, and then everyone votes.
And before we close, are there any members of the general public that came to this meeting that want to make a comment on this project? Use your reaction button at the bottom and the raise hand function within that.
Okay,
All right, so can I have a motion to close?
Andrew, you're muted.
I'll make a motion to close 77 Walker's Brook Drive.
Carl Ciccone, second.
Vote.
John Sullivan in favor.
Andrew Driven in favor.
Carl Ciccone in favor.
Martha Moore in favor. Okay, so conditions. We said 2-inch caliper trees. No clearing outside the fence line. Any other conditions we wanted to make sure we include?
Yeah, so any debris that's in the inside the fence or within reach of outside the fence would be picked up. This is something we talked about at our site visit. And there were 3 tires and some boards or whatever they were, boards, I guess, just in one spot. And there was a tire inside the fence. So we'd like all those removed from the wetland area and properly disposed of. You know, that's, oh yeah. And then some of the trees on the outside of the fence, just try not to disturb those when you're doing the installation, because I did notice that some of them were very likely habitat trees. Okay.
All right, so can somebody make a motion to issue the notice of intent, including the conditions that Chuck just mentioned?
Anybody? So
Number.
Sure.
make a motion to close with the conditions. You could say something like, make a motion to close with the conditions that were just discussed. That would be fine.
Wait a minute, we already closed. We're
Yeah.
making a motion to issue.
Issue, yeah.
This is Andy. I'll make a motion to approve an issue with the notice of intent for 77 Walker's Drive, under the conditions that there's any debris that is on the site or outside the fence, including some tires and charcoal and such, that it's removed and disposed of properly. Any planting of trees will be 2-inch caliper trees, and under the understanding that none of the trees outside of the fence will be disturbed.
All righty.
Do we have a second?
John Sullivan seconds.
Okay, and vote.
And John Sullivan in favor.
Andrew
Carl
Driven,
Ciccone, oh, sorry.
I'm
Sorry,
sorry,
Andrew.
Andrew Driven in favor.
Carl Ciccone in favor.
Martha Moore in favor. Okay. Thank you very much, Samantha.
Thank
Yeah,
you for your
thank
time.
you.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. So Lila Lane is not here, so that we could just continue that, get a motion to continue that to the December 14th. I recognize all the names on the screen. So if we could just have a motion to move that to December 14th. It's 39, Lila.
Oh,
I've moved to continue 39 Lila Lane to December 14th.
this is Andy. I'll second.
John Sullivan in favor.
Andrew Driven in favor.
Carl Sacconi in favor.
Martha Moore in favor.
Okay, so Harold Ave has already been continued to December 14th. And that brings us to Veterans Way. Excellent, and I don't see anyone here from Harold Ave either. They actually asked to come to the meeting after the agenda was uploaded. So if they were here, I don't know what we could do, but they're not here. So Luke, 11 Veterans Way, Luke is here, and I'm gonna give you permission to turn on your video and speak and unmute yourself. And I'm gonna just let the commission know that back in 2021, beginning of the year, Luke came to us and he wanted a fence in his backyard. And there was some discussion about where the fence goes. And the Conservation Commission asked him to talk to the engineering department. And it's taken a little bit of time. Can you see that? This is what we kind of agreed to, but I think mostly we agreed to the red area. And this orange area is inside the easement, but Luke wanted that, and he wanted to take the time to talk to Ryan. It took a little bit of time, but Ryan has agreed to allow this fenced in area where this is the orange area here on the outside, and the inside was the red, which we saw before. This, I'm going to say screen right fence is existing from what is the stormwater detention pond.
Yep.
So it's part of what the developer needs to put up. But Luke is running his fence over to the easement area and putting a double gated gate in that location, and then one at the other end. And that's what was agreed to by Ryan. And Luke, please, I'm going to stop and you just add anything that I missed.
Thank you, Chuck. You pretty much covered all. Yeah, like last time we met, we didn't have permission from the engineering the team. So, the commission asked us to get permission from them first. And yeah, and I'm sorry it took so long, and finally we worked it out. And as you can see on the screen, this is what Ryan requested. Double gates at each end, front and back of the easement. And that's pretty much it.
Okay, and I just want to interrupt for a minute. This is map 51, lot 165, RGB file number RDA 2021-3, just for the record. Okay,
Thank you.
all right.
Thank you.
Any members of the commission have questions about this project? Okay.
Not really. I'm just trying to understand where we were and where we are now. So what was initially proposed and I guess agreed to?
So
Okay.
what's shown in red was proposed and agreed to by the commission. But at that meeting, it was
Got it.
clear that the applicant wanted to try to convince the engineering department to do this orange line here, which is over the easement.
Got it.
So we agreed to everything in red. That was going to be fine. And now Luke is back to say that he's worked out a deal or came up with an arrangement with the engineering department, with the town engineer, Ryan Percival, if he would just put in a couple of double gated fences, that they'll allow him to put the fence on the easement.
And the property boundary is off the view at the top of the screen, is that correct?
Property boundary. Yeah, I think I'm not sure where Luke owns the property too. Do you?
Oh,
Is
the property boundary goes into the drain actually.
the drainagement,
Yeah.
right? Is it that dotted? No, it can't be that dotted line. Maybe
Yeah,
right here.
so- Yep, that's it.
Yeah, so it's quite a distance away. He owns half the
The drain.
half the drain, yeah, which is just a pit.
Yeah.
And
Okay,
so, and then this is the 25 foot and the 35 foot area. So they're outside of those two areas. This is subdivision, so there wasn't any trees that were on the property or cut. So that's not part of what we're looking at either.
okay. So this seems pretty straightforward to me. If nobody on the commission has any other questions, we could, in order to allow Luke to build his fence, we would need to vote for a negative determination on this project. So anybody have any other questions? And we don't close on RDAs, is that correct, Chuck?
No, just vote to issue.
Okay. So if anybody has any questions or concerns, speak up. Otherwise, member of the commission could move to issue a negative determination.
This is Andy. My only concern is having a gate in the back leaves it open for you to throw stuff into the wetlands, which is prone to happen. So we try to limit any gates back there. So just know that we don't like seeing things disposed of in the wetlands, including this time of year, like your leaves. People like to just open up that gate and blow all the leaves back there. That's not something we like to see. But aside from that, it looks good.
Good point, Andy.
Understood. Yep.
And the gates on front and back are to allow the DPW access as needed to maintain that drain easement, correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So with the condition of no yard waste and other debris dumped beyond the rear gate, we could move to issue a negative determination.
Or let the other commissioners speak if they have anything.
I'm good.
Okay, then this is Andy. I'll make a motion to for a negative determination for the RDA for 11 Veterans Way.
Carl
This is John
Ciccone,
Sullivan.
second.
John Sullivan in favor.
Oh, Andrew Gibbon in favor. Sorry.
Carl,
Carl Ciccone in favor.
Martha Moore in favor.
Okay, thank you. I will finish that up and send it out to you by next week.
Thank you so much, guys.
Yep, thank
And,
you.
Thank you for your
Thank
time.
you.
Have a good night.
Thanks.
Good night. Okay, so let's go right to Angela and McGonigal. And she is here for 78 Whittier, and Ed and Angela did a project, and it was a couple of years back, and they're asking the commission to review the site and to issue a certificate of compliance. Angela, you can turn your video on if you want, and at
Yeah.
least unmute yourself, and I will pull up what I have on that, which I think I have right here. Yep. Okay.
We were going for the longest waited time for compliance award. Need some humor 2 hours in.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. So 77 Whittier is a triangular lot, which the wetlands are along the edge on the south side of the lot.
78 Whittier, I believe.
Did I say that?
Yep.
78 Whittier. The upper area is mostly lawn, and as you get down towards the back and into this deep section of the triangle, it becomes more wooded. And I believe that there's been some planting in the area back here. So it's hard to tell where the woods are and where the planting was, but this plan doesn't represent what's out there at the moment. So this was used for the addition and used for the building department and part of the conservation process too. But it doesn't show the latest planting that was done just recently, a couple months ago, to I guess meet the conditions of the order of conditions. So I went out and I met Angela and Eddie out there, and we looked at the order of conditions, looked at the plan, and pointed out some areas where the planting should have been in, but they weren't. And as I understand it, that was taken care of. And the commission is just asked to go out there and take a look and review for erosion control, site compliance, and meeting the terms of the order of condition. So I did send the order of conditions and other information to anyone. So Angela, you want to chime in with anything?
Well, I could tell you the 2 types of plants we got. We actually left the tags on for you since August because I didn't know when you're coming out, but Eddie just pulled the 2 types. They're the Tom's Compact Summer Suite. This is height 2 to 3 feet. And then the Bailey Red Twig Dogwood, height 6 to 10 feet. So we kind of alternated them. I think there's 10 out there. I can't point, but we put 5 kind of along the back side, and then 5 on the abutting where the wetlands are. Yeah.
And up here. So here's the wetland right in through here.
Yeah, see that big tree right there? So the part that we were to do years ago was right at the edge there with the native vegetation. So it pretty much was like, right where the lawn starts and then down in the back there.
Right.
So it sounds like what we should do is pick a date for a site visit, and as many of us who can come out and see the plantings before it gets too cold and they're covered in snow. And then we could have you come back on December 14th, and we could issue your certificate of compliance at that point.
Sure. Yeah, Chuck, where were you drawn where that that tip of the pie, that's all woods back there too. So you'll see when you come out where it is.
Yeah, so the planting is really just in this area here?
Right, because further to the right of that, that's all woods.
This is wooded, okay.
Yeah, so it's just it's on the edge of the wooded part is what
And you
we're
did
really-
10
I think it's 5
couple
and
trees
5
and some
we did,
shrubs.
yeah.
Yeah. And did you come up along this line here in this direction? Or you left that alone?
That's just all the lawn.
The lawn, okay.
Yep.
So it's really that back area, okay.
And is there anything else we need to look at when we're out there, Chuck?
We
Uh,
did put in, since this plan, there's a swing set down there as well. It's between that big tree drawing and the retaining wall. That wasn't there at the time.
So is the swing set near where it says 50 feet E?
I don't see where it says.
It's this play area. Yeah, I thought it was down here. Is it
We
near the
ended
shed
up-
or is it above the
We
shed?
ended up moving it because the addition kind of peeked out. So see the stone wall, retaining wall to the right of that.
Yeah, right here.
It's down in you'll see when you go there, the yard, the retaining walls, probably the retaining wall, the yard dips down. So it's in the dipped part.
Did I get the right spot there or not?
A little to the right. It's just centered in lot A, like where it says lot A, it's probably there.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
I mean, you can't miss it.
okay. All right, so it sounds like we need a site visit.
Okay.
And what works best for, well, why don't we do this?
Mhm.
I think we already discussed when we're available. Can you let us know if that works for you, Martha?
Yeah. We were looking at Wednesday, the 16th, so that's a week
3:30.
from today at 3:30 in the afternoon.
Hold
Would
on.
that be okay with you if we, at least several of us came, might not be the whole group?
So when, you mean in December?
No, November,
So
November
when-
16th,
Oh, the 16th. Oh, I thought you said the 13th.
a week from today, the 16th.
My husband, yeah, I'm working. My husband will be there.
Okay,
Yeah, at what time? I could tell.
3:30?
3:30. Okay. Okay.
All right. Okay, all right. I've got it on my calendar.
Okay.
I mean, typically when we go out there, we check for the infiltration, which is right there in the front yard. Check for erosion control, check the planting, make sure nothing else has happened that wasn't on the plan because it doesn't have a permit. And that's typically where we're at, Martha. So those are the
Okay.
things we would look for.
And also maybe yard waste in the wetland.
Yep. Hopefully there's none of that. I did mention that when I was out there, so if there was, it should be gone by now. But I don't think there was any.
And something that's not on the plan would be the swing set, and would that be an issue?
Something
You
was a
know,
removable structure, is it, because it's not, I don't know, permanent? Is that the right word I'm using?
well, I think the way I mean, it's all about where it is and all that, but one of the things is you're on the right track. This is a temporary structure because you're not going to have it there for a real long time. But what it's sitting in and all that, you know, if it's on bark mulch and it's surrounded by landscape timber and things like that, it just has to be looked at. And it's not part of the plan. I think that we allow those, but kind of make sure that it's not. I mean, it almost looks like that's a low area that may be wetland. So I think we'll just have to just see what's going on out there at the site visit. But generally, swing sets are allowed without permits because they're temporary.
Okay, so we'll take a look at it and see if it's an issue. All right. So,
Okay, if it is an issue, do we have to take it down or do we just wait and see if it's an issue first?
what would happen to it is something we discuss at the next meeting.
Okay, okay.
So
just trying to plan ahead
Right.
for the
Yeah.
kiddo.
I don't think you have to rush out and take it down.
Well, I didn't want to because one of
Yeah.
them's still using it, but I'd like to
Right.
forewarn her and all that stuff.
How much longer do you think that swing set's
Well,
going to be in
she's
use?
8, but I don't want to rush it.
Yeah, so like
I mean,
another 10 years,
no, not that long. But
another
no, well, you
few-
guys just tell, I mean, it is what it is, but just
Mm-hmm.
if you think it's a problem, I, just want to be able to tell her.
Yeah.
No,
Well,
I don't know. It's not a problem. So yeah, so we'll look at it. I mean, there must be, you could move it to the left or right. Would that be, if it was in the,
Well,
like you
you'll-
said, you put it in the
yeah.
low spot,
Yeah.
which I thought, well, maybe that's not, I mean, to us, that seems to be, an area that was probably wet because I could see the flags right here.
mm,
So
Yeah, I mean, it was lawn, but it was probably, I don't know how to decipher. It was probably not the lawn up top there, but it was just lawn, but I don't know how to decipher wet lawn versus regular lawn.
okay. So
Yeah,
Chuck,
so let's-
bring your soil auger and we'll check it out.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out.
all right, sounds good.
Okay, so we'll see your husband on the 16th and then we need a motion to continue this to the 14th of December.
To the 14th, okay. Thank you.
all right, thank you.
Thanks.
So do we have a motion? Come on, you guys, wake up.
We should just appoint one person to do that.
Okay,
the beginning of
John,
the
would you
meeting.
make a motion for us?
We're moving to continue this to the next one. Is that right?
Yes,
I move to continue 78 Whittier Road to December 14th.
thank you.
Zandy, I'll second that.
Awesome. Okay, and vote, please.
John Sullivan in favor.
Andrew Driven in favor.
Carl Sacconi in favor.
Martha Moore in favor.
All right, we'll see you next week and then on the December 14th.
Thank you. Have a
Yep.
good night.
You too.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay. Stop sharing and let everybody know that the next DPW meeting is on the Tuesday, the 6th. It's at 1 o'clock and Martha Moore has already said that she's available for that DPW meeting.
Mhm.
I am not going to do the climate smart native plants because I think that it would be better to do that with Brian here and when we really have a slow meeting. There are no bills to approve and the enforcement items, RMLD, I think is almost taken care of itself. We submitted a draft of the vegetation management plan and we've received some things from Mayor Tree that's been approved for, the operation of the tree cutting. So these are like a working ticket where they'll give us the address, the tree, what's going on, wait for our approval, and then do the work. So they've developed that. And so we're moving right along with our requests. So I think in the future, this is not going to be an issue. And that's all about making sure that we have options when RMLD sees a tree and they send out Mayor Tree and Mayor Tree is cutting them down. We wanted to have options and to be part of the discussion because not being there and just seeing what happened in the aftermath, we wanted to make sure that there wasn't, you couldn't just limit, you just could, you couldn't just like wrap the wires, you couldn't, I guess that's called sleeve the wires, and do some other things before taking down the trees. So when this operation and maintenance plan and the vegetation maintenance plan came up, it gave us the opportunity to get involved with how that works. So, like I said, it's been positive. They're I don't know how it got so far, but I think the people we're working with RMLD right now are great, and couldn't ask for better kind of people to kind of put a plan together. So it's kind of a big overview, but no particulars yet. When the plan's approved, or you'll have to approve the plan once we have the draft, and you'll see it at that point. But it's with RMLD at this point, I believe. Believes that with RMLD. Me and Brian finished it up almost a month ago now, and Chris Cole was going to kind of like memorialize the edits that we did, make a clean copy, and then send it to RMLD. Next on the agenda is, like I said, there's no bills to approve, but there are some minutes to review and approve. Did those get, I'm thinking, did those get sent out? I think I did. I think I sent out the minutes.
I don't remember seeing the September 28th minutes.
What
but
about
I could be
Andy's
wrong.
minutes? I did, right?
Those were
I thought
last,
we voted Andy's minutes last time.
No.
We were waiting for Chuck's September 28th minutes. And I
So out of
did,
1012 and 1026, there,
I sent both of those out. And my one concern is, I think I am concerned about the RDA number for one of the things on the minutes. It seemed like it was the same RDA number as the application right above it. So, but I don't remember which one it was at this point. But other than that, I didn't get any complaints back except for Brian, and I fixed the complaints Brian had.
I'm looking at the October 26th minutes, and you have highlighted the file number for 39 Lila Lane.
There we go.
Sure.
Yeah. So I just wanted to have Chuck double check and make sure we've got the right file number on those minutes.
I will.
Okay. So I would be happy to have a motion to accept, to receive the minutes from October 26th, since that's what Andy's looking at right now. Give you guys a minute or two to look them over.
Well, I'll make a motion to accept the October 26th meeting minutes.
Carl Ciccone, second.
John Sullivan in favor.
Andrew Driven in favor.
Carl Ciccone in favor.
Martha Moore in favor. Okay. And how about the October 12th meeting minutes?
Just looking at them quickly. There's the same Lila Lane issue.
Right.
So just whatever that's worth. That's still going, so I don't think it's a big deal. And yeah, pretty so good. So I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes for October 12th.
Carl Ciccone, second.
John Sullivan in favor.
Andrew Driven in favor.
Carl Ciccone in favor.
Martha Moore in favor. Okay, and I don't think we've seen the September 28th minutes.
I know,
is
I've
that
been
correct?
really, really bad.
Okay.
But I'll get them
That's
for the
fine.
next meeting because I have till December 12th. And
December 14th.
14th, right? And do we have a volunteer for these minutes?
I'm willing to do them again.
Okay,
Thanks, Martha. This is a harder one. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
Before we, move on. We were talking earlier about Simon's Way. We never really came to a decision. So we were talking, we have Whittier on the 16th, next Wednesday. Would Fidel can join us if we do it on Thursday, the 17th at 10:30. I know, John, that doesn't work for you. I don't think this will be my only visit out there though, John, so I'm sure we could schedule something if you want to get out there at another time. But I do want to try to get out there sooner rather than later with some of you all, if we could get a small group to join.
17th at 10:30, I'm free.
Okay,
And I can do it on the 17th at 10:30.
okay. We'll
And
mention it to Brian, who knows where he's standing at that point.
yeah,
Carl,
okay.
imagine you're working.
Yep.
What I'll do is I'll send out a meeting invitation to everyone, and the people that can't do it, we can just deny it, including Fidel. Or do you want to do that, Andy?
No, that's fine. You could do that.
Okay.
I think that's
Okay.
good.
All right, so at least a couple of us will get to see the property that Andy is on the Simon's Way committee for figuring out how the town might use Simon's Way, correct? And that's why we want to go out there and
That's
see what
correct.
we're faced with.
Yeah, I haven't
Right.
done anything yet. It supposedly starts in December. But I want to try to get out there before we get snow on the ground and it gets too frozen and cold.
Yeah. Has anybody done a wetlands delineation of that property?
Yes, it was done by Wesson and Sampson. And it was done previous to that also. So
Do you
we
have
will,
those?
we will see flags out there.
Okay. And do you have the maps that would be able to be distributed, or should we just kind of go to the site?
I didn't Fidel send you the latest map? I
have
don't,
some-
I'll get it, but I'm not sure if I've received one. Let me see.
I do have a map by Weston and Sampson, which I'm guessing you have too. You're on that email as well. So yeah, we have one map.
Yeah, I got it right here.
I don't recall seeing a copy of that. So if somebody would forward it to me, that would be great.
Yeah.
It's not very exciting, but the important thing about this site is that we want to, make sure that we try to maintain our 25, 35 foot area. And
Yeah, we could,
try to limit the trees that are cut down in that area.
where do we meet? I mean, I'm a little bit familiar with the area from soccer, bringing my kids to soccer practice there.
How about over here at the parking area? I think it's like right here for the skating rink, and just walk over.
Okay, so we'll park by the skating.
Yeah, I think it's just a straight shot into the revolver club down through here, and you can't really pull off the road too much. I may be mistaken, but I don't think so. But there's parking like right over here.
Yeah. Okay,
Okay, so park and meet near the skating rink. And then walk over to the site, correct?
Mm. Yeah, you
Yeah.
get your work cut out for you, Andy. Look at how high that 35 foot line goes.
yeah, there's not a lot of space there looking at the map. We'll have to check it out. All right, sounds good.
There's an old car back there too.
Oh,
That's what-
nice.
Yeah.
And just to clarify, we're planning to park in the paved lot between Haverhill Street and the skating rink and not in the gravel lot behind the skating rink, right?
Yeah, I don't know
Assume-
where that is, but as you're driving in, there's a parking
Before you
lot
get
right
to the building.
there. It's in front of the skating rink.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah,
Yeah. The only other thing that I'll let you know is this proposed parcel A. At the end of the day, they were going to give this to the Conservation Commission, but they don't want to do it until after all the work is done here in case they need more land for some reason. And I said, it's wetland. It's not going to help you if you do any of that. But that's the thought, that at the end of the day, we're going to have another piece of wetland that's wet.
Yay. All right. Well, there'll be more about this once I start getting more information.
So the Lynetta Lane gift of land, if you go to the map geo, you can see that it's colored in that green open space color now. So it finally happened. I was checking it out today. Matt Dane, our GIS coordinator, just took care of that. I'm not sure if it's labeled correctly, because when I went to it, it didn't highlight the fact that the Conservation Commission owns it, but at least it's that highlighted in that light green color depicting open space. So
good. And Chuck and I went with the Trails Committee representatives and looked at that property the other day.
oh, that's right. Yeah, and so you'll over the winter, you'll see a permit application to create a new trail back there. Let me just go to it. Do it. 2 minutes.
Is it all over?
All right, well, there it is, right there. So it's this property here. And that's also our easement right out to Lynetta Lane. So it's not colored in green, but it is an easement. So we're just gonna put, I guess the best thing to do is put a dotted line on it and then down through here. So we did walk it. It's a little bit wet in this area here with a stream, which was running when we were out there. So we're looking at something like a 50-foot section we need to figure out. And it gets dry, wet again. And then here, between probably here and this area here, another 50 feet, it's wet, but not stream-like. And then basically you can walk all the way across. You have to just have like a 10-foot bridge on this side too, and then you're back. When I checked it out, it was a 1/4 mile, but when we used All Trails, it was a 1/2 mile. So it's 2 laps around, 2 laps around the high school track, just going around at one time. So it's not a bad little walk.
And the beginning of the trail was constructed by the volunteers who came last summer. So they've already put in a wood chip path and or maybe it's gravel path and a bridge over the first stream crossing.
Yeah, it's like a showroom of paths. Like if you're, a volunteer group and you want to check out all the possible, ways you can get to one place to another, it starts out in gravel, goes to wood chip, and then it's the bridge that goes over the stream. So we have it all there. The developer put in the gravel, and then we had the team spread out the wood chips and build the bridge. So,
Okay.
all right.
So is that it for tonight? Anything else, or can we adjourn?
I have nothing else. Any members have anything they want to bring up, something to check into, or we're all good?
I'm good.
Okay. So we'll see a couple of us together next Wednesday afternoon and Thursday morning. All right. Can we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll go for it, Carl.
I have a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
I'll second that, Sandy.
I
Oh
do
my-
seem to be available for efficient meetings, so thank you to the conservation gods.
Mhm.
No, we've gotten better. They're usually,
Really? Yeah.
Well, it helps when we only have really 2 hearings in a night, you know, when we
Yeah.
have 5 or 7 hearings, it just goes on forever. But 2 hearings makes a decent meeting.
And Martha, I was going to email you just to follow up with a few things, but I know December 14th sounds like a biggie with a couple of these continuations, so we'll try with Brian being back hopefully to make a, have more of a vote. So if that's
That would be awesome.
Oh.
Yeah. And we'll see. They may continue again. So
Yeah.
we end up with only a few hearings also.
okay.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
right.
So we've had
Thanks.
a move and a second. Can we vote to adjourn?
yeah, hands are fine.
Oh yeah. Okay. Well,
All
I'm
right.
raising my hand.
Okay. Carl voted
Unanimous.
yes. Okay. Good night, all.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Happy
thanks.
holidays too. Have a good
Yeah.
Thanksgiving. Bye.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you, everyone.
Thanksgiving's coming up.
Yeah,
We'll see you
yeah.
guys.